You know that one friend who seems to have emerged from the womb with a credit score of 800 and a fully diversified portfolio? They are the mom of the group, the designated driver of life, the person who packs a first aid kit for a casual brunch. While everyone else was learning to ride a bike, they were apparently learning how to de-escalate a family argument or balance a checkbook. We often call them old souls or praise them for being so mature for their age. But if you look a little closer, past the competency and the organized calendars, you might see something else. You might see a faint, exhausted panic behind their eyes. If you are that person, or if you love someone who is, you know that this maturity wasn't exactly a choice, it was a survival strategy. When a child grows up too fast, it's usually because the adults in the room were, for whatever reason, absent, volatile, or overwhelmed. The child steps up to fill the vacuum. But what happens to that child 20 years later? They don't just go back to being a carefree kid. They evolve into adults with very specific, very hidden psychological blueprints. Let's walk through the profiles of the parentified adult and see if any of these feel a little too personal. First, we have the architect of control. This is the person who feels that if they don't handle it, the sky will literally fall. Imagine a group project where one person does 90% of the work, not because they are arrogant, but because they are terrified. To the architect, delegating a task feels physically painful. Why? Because in their childhood, trusting an adult to handle things, whether it was remembering to buy groceries or staying sober, resulted in disaster. The psychology here is rooted in hyper-independence. This isn't the healthy independence of an adult who pays their own bills. It's a trauma response that says dependency is dangerous. The architect cannot ask for help because in their developing brain, need was a liability. If you ask them, "Can I help you with that?" they will almost reflexively say, "No, I got it," even if they're drowning. They are efficient, successful, and usually incredibly lonely, trapped inside a fortress they built to keep chaos out. Then shift your gaze to the emotional air traffic controller. You might know this person as the peacekeeper, but it's much deeper than that. This is the person who walks into a room and instantly scans the atmosphere. Are the vibes off? Is someone sighing too loudly? Is there a micro-expression of anger on a partner's face? Before anyone else even notices a problem, the air traffic controller is already cracking a joke, offering a drink, or changing the subject to smooth things over. They learned this skill because they grew up in a home where emotions were volatile. Maybe a parent was depressive or angry or emotionally fragile. The child learned that their safety depended on managing the parent's mood. If mom is happy, I eat dinner. If dad is calm, I can sleep. As adults, they have a superpower of empathy, but it comes at a terrible cost. They have no idea how they feel because they are too busy managing how everyone else feels. They're chameleons who dissolve into the needs of the room, often attracting partners who need fixing because that is the only relationship dynamic they understand. And then there is the crisis junkie. This one is counterintuitive. You might expect the child who grew up too fast to want a quiet, boring life, and consciously they do. But watch what happens when life actually gets quiet. They get restless, they get anxious. They might even pick a fight or procrastinate until a deadline is an emergency. This happens because their central nervous system was developed in a high-stress environment. Cortisol and adrenaline were their baseline. When things are calm, their brain interprets the silence not as peace, but the calm before the storm. It feels suspicious. It feels unsafe. So they subconsciously manufacture chaos just to feel normal again. They are incredible in an emergency, cool, collected, decisive. But ask them to sit on a beach and do nothing for a week? That is their personal hell. Finally, we have the validator. This is the high-achieving ghost. This person believes deep in their bones that they only exist as long as they are useful. As a child, they weren't loved simply for being. They were praised for doing. Look how helpful she is. Look how he takes care of his little brother. Their identity became fused with their function.
In adulthood, this manifests as a crushing inability to say no. They overwork, they overgive, and they burn out with clockwork regularity. They feel a deep, gnawing guilt the moment they sit down to relax. You'll see them cleaning up at a party they're supposed to be enjoying. The tragedy of the validator is that they are waiting for permission to stop, permission that never comes because they are waiting for it from themselves. So, where does this leave us? If you're nodding along, realizing you've been wearing the armor of the responsible one since you were 7 years old, take a breath. The goal isn't to destroy these traits. Your resilience, your empathy, your capability, those are gifts. But the cost shouldn't be your ability to just be. The psychology of healing from this isn't about becoming irresponsible. It's about learning to reparent yourself. It's about telling that inner architect that the world won't end if the laundry waits a day. It's about teaching the air traffic controller that other people's moods are not their responsibility to fix. It's about finding safety in the silence. Maybe the most rebellious thing you can do if you grew up too fast is to waste time, to do something purely for the joy of it, with no outcome, no utility, and no grade attached. To be, just for a moment, useless and loved anyway. Does any of this resonate with your timeline? Are you the crisis junkie or the hyper-independent architect? Or maybe you're the friend watching this and finally understanding why your partner can't sit still. Let me know which profile hit home for you. I read the comments and I'd love to hear your story. And if you want to explore more about the invisible scripts running our lives, make sure you're sticking around for the next video.